Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, broadcasting live every Thursday evening beginning at 6 p.m. Central right here in Panama City Beach, Florida, home of the world's most beautiful beaches. I want to thank everyone for joining me on my weekly broadcast. Each week I'll feature some of the best instructors, coaches, authors, and entrepreneurs in the golf business today. Starting March 7th, I'll be adding the Coaches Corner panel to the mix, beginning the show with a great discussion, followed by an insightful interview with this evening's guest. So let's get started by introducing tonight's special guest. All right, good evening, everybody, and thanks again for joining me tonight here on Golf Talk Live. I'm very excited. I've got a very interesting guest joining us here in just a moment, but let me just remind everybody of a couple things. As I'm sure you probably heard in the introduction, the Coaches Corner panel will begin on March the 7th. So 2 weeks from tonight, we'll be bringing back the Coaches Corner panel on the first hour of the broadcast. Right now, we're just doing basically an hour broadcast for another week. And then on March 7th, we'll be going to the full broadcast of 2 hours, again, starting with Coaches Corner, followed by an interview on the second hour of my broadcast. So that'll be starting on March 7th. Also on March 5th, on the other show, on Tuesday mornings, the Women of Golf show that I co-host with LPGA professional Cindy Miller, beginning on March the 5th, we'll be starting with our series of players from the Symetra Tour will be joining us beginning on March 5th. And then the week following, we'll start to host some of the winners from this season's Symetra Tour. So we're very, very excited about that. But again, thank you for joining me tonight. And just one other quick announcement. If you want to reach out to me, if you're somebody that's in the golf industry and you'd like to join the program, you can reach out to me at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And you're always welcome to call in anytime during the live broadcast. The number is area code 646-716-4667. Again, that's 646-716-4667. As I mentioned, I got a great guest tonight, a gentleman by the name of Ian Peterson. We actually connected on social media, in fact, Facebook here recently, and found his story very interesting and wanted to share it with the audience here. So let me introduce him, and then I'll bring him on, and then we'll begin tonight's broadcast. Again, his name is Ian Peterson. He's the founder and CEO of Dialed In Golf Solutions. He's also a Level 1 and Level 2 certified TrackMan professional, as well as the Director of Technology at Megan Yokman Golf Academy in Tampa, Florida. With 20-plus years in corporate America overseeing finance and governance organizations for IT and insurance companies. He relatively took up golf pretty late in life, but fell in love with the game, as we all do, fairly quickly. Originally from the Bronx in New York, but moved to St. Petersburg, Florida in the early 90s, where he attended the Boca Ciega High School and Eckerd College. Ian, good evening and welcome to Golf Talk Live.
Good evening, Ted, and thanks for having me. I certainly appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that you were able to join me tonight. And again, it's always interesting, as I said in the beginning. I meet a lot of people, obviously, as I'm sure you do, through social media. It's a great way, obviously, as a business tool to be able to connect with different people. And I always, when I'm on there, for me, it's not so much a personal thing as it is as a business opportunity to meet new people. And I found your story, as I said, and we're going to talk about that here in just a few minutes. Very, very interesting. I think you've got a great business model, and I wanted to share that with the audience, not just the general audience, but also a lot of other golf professionals, including myself, tune into the broadcast. And I think it was a great way that you might be able to interact with some of them as well and perhaps help one another with your various different endeavors. So let's first things first. One thing I left out in your bio, and that's because I wanted you to do that. Maybe you can do a little shout out. I know that you're married and you have a young daughter as well. So why don't you say hello and introduce them as well?
Oh, okay, yeah. Without them, I don't think we would be in a position that we're in today. They've helped me out a lot starting this business, not only in the areas in which you can see, but also servicing the events. So my wife Ari and my daughter Ryan. Will be going to high school next year, so it reminds me how old I'm getting.
I hear you. I hear you very well, so I can relate. So Ian, let me just ask you this, and I think what we'll do here is I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about your business, how it got started, when it got started, and what was sort of the idea behind it, and then we'll get into more of the, as they say, the meat and potatoes of the business itself.
Cool.
So just tell us, give us a little bit of an idea of how it got started and how you sort of came up with the idea.
Okay, just like many golfers out there, I was a weekend warrior, struggling on around the golf course. As you mentioned earlier, I started playing golf later in life when I could no longer enjoy playing basketball, football, baseball, those type of sports. So I kind of my friends kind of forced me into the game of golf, and I immediately fell in love with it. A lot of people turn away because of the stress that comes with learning golf, but I actually like the game of golf because every time I play, I'm learning. So just like in life, I enjoy it because I'm learning. Even when I'm struggling, I'm learning. So back in 2017, I decided to really take my practice time on the range seriously, really focusing on my short game, and my scores started to just drop significantly. I was in the low 80s for a while, started working on my putting, and I was consistently in the 70s. And but I would always have issues with distance, whether I was short or long on the golf course. So a buddy of mine, he said, you know what, we should get on TrackMan. And we should find a TrackMan. When you get on TrackMan, work on our numbers. And in just the area in which we live, you have some facilities that have the device, but with our busy schedules, working full time, more than 40 hours a week, it's just wasn't. We were just not able to find a unit that was available at that time. He thought it was fairly inexpensive, and I looked it up, and it wasn't inexpensive. And I'm like, wow, because I was thinking about purchasing it for myself. And it kept nagging at me for a while. I kept working on my game, and I mustered up the courage to talk to my wife about buying a TrackMan. And I wrapped it around a business model, because I know if I spent that much money, I would have to convince her we could make money with this device. But surprisingly, she was all forward. She was all forward having our own business, our own company. But never did I think of having my own business. I never wanted really to be an entrepreneur. I had to have a good job, make a good living. And I know the stress with having your own company and worrying about employees, benefits, things of that nature. So I did my due diligence. I went back to college, took some business courses. I talked to a lot of people in the industry just to see if my idea would work. And I got the thumbs up. As I mentioned, my wife approved. Later in that year, probably September, October of 2017, I purchased the TrackMan after having several meetings with TrackMan themselves around my business model and understanding if it will work. And I had my first event November, right before Thanksgiving of 2017. So we did a couple free events late that year, and it just took off from there. And that's how Dowden Golf Solutions got started.
Well, and just for the audience perspective, let me just say this. The full company name obviously is Dialed In Golf Solutions. We're going to call and refer to it as DIGS just to keep it easier. So if I or you refer to DIGS, obviously that's an acronym, if you will, for keeping it a little bit shorter, so we don't have to say the so if you hear me saying DIGS, that's what we're talking about. So let me and I think that's great. I mean, I love your logo, and I love the way you've sort of packaged it together. And I've obviously been on your website, so I'm somewhat familiar with everything that you do. But I want you to maybe explain it. So let's talk about specifically what you do. You talk about your first tournament or event was in late 2017. So explain essentially what the business model is about and what you're trying to do with DIGS.
All right. So the business model is all about the experience. Often as golfers, we see this technology on TV, but we rarely get to experience what professionals experience. So our business model is around providing that experience, whether it's on the golf course, at a tournament, at the driving range, when we partner with teaching professionals, or, even indoors at a company function, when we have, the mobile cage out, we have the TrackMan, and you have all the functions of the TrackMan inside. So it's all about the experience. Our core business is through tournaments, is to bring that PGA-like experience to your local tournament, to your charity event. And golfers love it. We set up on a hole or two, depending on how big the event is. They play the hole as normal,
right,
because and that's key, and that's the first thing we tell those who are interested, that it does not impede the pace of play, because the technology is
right.
so advanced. You hit the ball, immediately you get club speed and ball speed. Then once it lands, you get your carry distance, and then it gives you your estimated total. So with that, I'm quite sure as a golfer, especially playing in tournaments, that's a lot of fun, and it gets very competitive with
right.
some groups as well.
Right.
So that's what they get. That's what they get on the course. So they play it as normal, except now they have cameras around, and at the end of the day, they get a report through TrackMan's event software that has a video of their swing from multiple angles. So from the two angles, down the line and face on. They get 9 different data points. So in addition to what I mentioned earlier, they get also smash factor, spin rate, height, landing angle, launch angle, things like that. And at the bottom is the gravy. This is what they like. It's a leaderboard. So it tells you top 20 for the tournament, who had the longest drive, the fastest club speed, and the highest ball speed. And they eat it up. They love it. I run into some of the golfers at other events. They practice after seeing the video. Some take lessons, so I'm always in contact with different teaching pros, because I get asked all the time, who can I go to help me with this? These are my numbers, and I just give those referrals, out to those who can, that can work with and help them improve. So when they get back, they want to see their numbers again, and they look forward to it. So the golfers love that piece of it. And I want to mention last year in 2018, we participated in 85 events, serviced over 11,000 golfers. And this is, really just doing it on the weekends and sometimes on special days throughout the state of Florida. And we're noticing now that we're kind of evolving through a marketing company as well, because of the technology or the software allows for that branding of sponsors, for example, or companies. We're being hired by companies to take advantage not of this memorable moment that we provide to the golfers.
Well, and also, Ian, too, I can see this, and I'm sure this is things that you guys have already thought about. This kind of brings a whole different level to a corporate event, because traditionally, they go out, they play, they have a scramble, whatever. But now that they've got this event play through TrackMan, they're actually able to have really even a little competition within the competition, because now, as especially for the men, they always want to, I can hit it further and that. Well, now they got the stats right there, and somebody at the end of the event is going to have some bragging rights, and maybe they want to have some additional prizes for those that hit certain numbers, that they're looking at to come the end of the event. So I can see you creating a very fun environment for some of your corporate events.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Not only the distance, but we've just been hired by a financial company for their golf tournament. Their theme is American cities. So we're set up on the Indianapolis hole, and it's all about speed. So they don't, on that hole, they don't care about the distance. It's all about the swing speed, and you know how some people love to see their swing speed. So and that they'll be giving out some prizes in regards to that as well. So it's fun for all skill levels. It doesn't again impede pace of play. It's great for sponsors. As I mentioned, the audience that we have, and we're looking to significantly grow that this year. So now we're looking for corporate sponsors who just want to be with Dowden Golf Solutions as we travel the state. Actually, we've been booking tournaments out of the state of Florida now too.
Okay, very good. So talk about how this is actually set up an event. So let's go to the event now, and maybe just give us an example from one that you've done before, how it actually works. I mean, obviously I'm familiar with how TrackMan works, but is this something that is set up on a specific hole or what do you specifically do? Like, talk about that, how it's actually set up for the event.
So we're set up on a tee box. The TrackMan sits about 15 feet from the tee box, and we have 3 cameras. So we have a camera on each side, so in front of the golfer, face on, I should say, whether they're right-handed or left-handed, and then we have a camera that sits right behind the TrackMan that captures the down the line view. So
right.
There's nothing in their hitting area. There's no chance, unless they're not paying attention, of them even hitting the TrackMan or running into it.
Right.
And as I mentioned, they play the hole as normal. And we have we set up a canopy tent. We have our laptop. We now bring out, if the weather permits, a 65-inch screen. Because it brings a lot of excitement. So even those who are not playing in the tournament,
sure.
they're standing around, and before they were standing around and look at the laptop. Now we have this 65-inch screen that they can see exactly what's going on. They can see those 4 numbers that pop up: carry distance, total distance, club speed, and ball speed, and they can see how they compare to members of their foursome as well. So
right.
It brings that PGA type of experience to a local tournament.
Right, and I did see on your website that you had the tent set up and that, and actually you did a great job. Was that your idea, or was that your wife's idea to sort of splash it up a little bit with some really cool furniture and obviously the TV? Was that something that you did together, or did she add a little bit of a feminine touch to it?
Oh, she's always adding her touch to it. Everything has to be just right, and she's right.
Right.
Because especially in pictures, things are not lined up correctly. It tends to stand out. We recently redid our website, but that came from feedback from the PGA merchandise show this past year or this past month.
Right.
About giving it more eye candy, giving it more pop. So it can actually fit the services that we provide. People felt that it did not show the excitement that we truly bring to the tournament. So, and we have our new website up now.
Yeah, no, you guys did a great job with that, and that's really, I think what it is nowadays in golf. I mean, obviously, I focus more or have focused more on the instruction side in the past. Now I'm more into the media and broadcasting side of things. But what I've always noticed, especially with corporate events, is they want to feel, even the people, as you suggested, that aren't necessarily playing in the tournament, maybe they're just support staff that are there doing other functions, they want to feel that they're part of the tournament. And this creates a great atmosphere. Like I said, you can have this tent or even tent set up where they can kind of sit there and watch kind of things going on and kind of, maybe even have their own little side bets on who's going to do better, or whatnot. So you can have a lot of fun and make it, an interesting event, and I'm sure makes for some good banter once they get back to the office, either later that day or the next day. So, and it's about really having fun, and that's really about the game. But you mentioned that you had quite a few tournaments, 85 you said last season. Is that correct? Did I hear you correct?
85 events. Yeah, 85 events.
Right.
Majority of those are tournaments. We do driving range events as well, where we would partner with a course or a standalone driving range. And the goal really is to help bring more traffic to that location. So we will partner up with the local pro there. We would, announce it on social media. We invite people there so they can get in front of the TrackMan, and at the same time, the pros giving some tips, but it helps increase their student base as well.
Sure.
We've been doing less of those because tournaments have picked up so much. But I'm still getting calls and emails about when the next time we're coming out so they can get on the TrackMan and get their numbers.
Yeah, and that's, it's good to have a little bit of diversity, but you're right. If you're seeing your business moving into more of the tournament, obviously you want to go that direction. You got to be careful of obviously spreading yourself too thin and having too many options out there, because then it gets to a point where you're kind of going left and right and whatnot. So that's very smart to observe it, and that's important too, to really understand your market. And obviously it sounds like you guys have had a good grasp on it. So obviously we're in 2019 now. So let's talk about some of the goals that you've set up for this season? What are you looking to? Obviously, you're looking to expand, but what are some things that you did last year that you want to expand on for this season?
Yeah, so our focus, again, is to really increase our tournament bookings. Towards the end of last year, we've been contacted to do a lot of member guest events. In many cases, they like our tournament setup, but we also do other things with TrackMan. For example, TrackMan has a combine, or they have these test centers. So we do some cool things, some cool challenges that leads to side bets with that as well, like accuracy at certain distances and things. So we're looking to really increase our tournament presence and also our member guest presence at golf courses. I would say from a more of a personal standpoint, we're looking to get involved more in the community. I mentioned to you, I believe, that I'm now a member of the executive committee at the Chichi Rodriguez Youth Foundation, getting involved in other nonprofits. For example, we have good friends up in Orlando that runs a nonprofit called Mission Enforced, and Seeds of Promise here in Clearwater, really creating opportunities for young men and women that currently do not have them, and growing the game that way, but also really just focusing on just their development as young men, young women as well.
Yeah, and you know, that's fantastic. It's always great, you know, and this is one thing that I've always really loved. You know, I obviously started playing golf a little bit earlier than you did. I started very, very young. My father obviously took me out and brought me into the game, and you know, continued on from there. But one of the things that I've always loved about golf is, and it's really unlike so many other sports out there, is it really gives back. I mean, through tournaments, through charity events and things like that. It's really, it doesn't, I mean, I was even surprised about this. I had, several years ago, I had a gentleman that came on, and the name escapes me right now, but he actually had a book that he had published that talked about all of the different events, and just talking about here in the United States. And I mean, thousands of golf tournaments every year by every walk of life that you could imagine, corporate and otherwise, that were specifically for charity. And it was amazing the billions of dollars that golf generates in charitable donations. And what was really interesting is no other sport, not the NFL, not MLB, NHL, any of them, and they all do great work in their own rights, none of them even come close to what the golf industry generates. And that's just amazing when you think about it. Now, I want to ask you just a couple of personal things about your own golf. I mean, you've talked about how your journey, if you will. What was it specifically about golf that you really attracted you? You mentioned you played a number of different sports over the years, growing up and so forth, but later in life you took up golf, and obviously you like some of the challenges. But what specifically, because I know golf can be frustrating, as I'm sure you can attest to at times, what specifically about the game itself, the challenges, if you will, out in the golf course, that really sort of hit home with you, that said, okay, you know what, I can really get into this. It's going to be tough, but I think I can do this. What were some of the challenges that you found, and how did you overcome them?
The first thing is it's not a challenge, but just the beauty of the golf course. You know, every course I go to, I find beauty and the nature and the layout and things like that. That keeps me coming back and loving the game. But the challenges itself, because all those other sports came so easy, but golf, it really required focus. And in order to be good, it requires dedication. I can pick up a basketball right now. Give me 5 minutes. You know, I'm making every shot, or a higher percentage of shots. Golf, I can shoot 50 in the front nine and then 30 in the back nine, or opposite. Right. You know, and I, even though I'm frustrated, I know I can do better, and I will work to do better, whether it's the next shot, which is very important, you know, or the next time that I play golf. Now, unfortunately, with the business, I don't get the chance to play golf as often, and I don't get a chance to be on TrackMan. And that's the reason why I wanted it in the first place. But
welcome to the golf industry, Ian. Welcome to the golf industry.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But it's whether it's the driver or the putter, or the wedge, the shaping of a shot, or trying to get some spin, or a challenging putt. It's all over the place. I can't say it's one thing. My putter can be working one day, and the next day it may not be. So it's the reading of the greens. It's so many different things, and that's what I love about golf. It's not easy to fix. It's just odd, very odd. From a personal standpoint, and my family can attest to this. I love cleaning because I love seeing progress. I love seeing like a project complete. And every time I play golf, I feel I get that same adrenaline rush, which is very odd. But that's why I love the game of golf.
Well, and it's interesting too because as you mentioned, you played a number of different sports growing up. And what's always very interesting to me, because obviously there comes a point in time, and again, you alluded to this as well, you get to sort of that age where, running up and down the basketball court is a little tougher. Even throwing those, out in the baseball diamond gets a little bit tougher, and some of these other sports and football, those hits hurt a little bit more than they did when you're in your 20s. But what's always interesting about this is when you look at the athletes out there, the major sports athletes and all of those three and others, they all seem to, as they age and get a little bit older, all seem to gravitate to the same thing. They all go to golf. Yeah. And I found that very interesting.
Exactly.
And I think it's because there's still a challenge. There's enough of a challenge there, obviously, and a great challenge. But there's always that pursuit for them to get better, and that's something that they've done all their careers. But it's a little bit easier on the body, I think, than obviously some of the other sports we've mentioned. So, and I'm sure you can attest to that as well, being athletic yourself. That we don't move quite the same as we used to. But golf sort of is a great equalizer because you don't have to have a lot of upper body or lower body strength. It's just really timing and tempo. And I mean, we've seen players that are 5'0" that can belt it out nearly 300 yards or plus. And then we can see some, big players who you would think would kill the ball, can't hit it 150 yards down the fairway. So it's a pretty good equalizer. And I'm sure that's something that you experienced, I'm sure, as well.
I see it all the time.
Right. What about your wife and your daughter? Are they involved? I mean, is your wife more involved with the business, and does she play, and does your daughter play or have an interest in playing?
My daughter has an interest in playing. She has some height. She's almost as tall as me, although she just turned 14. So she kind of let the game alone a bit, but she's showing interest again. She's been very active in CrossFit the last couple years, but she's mentioned recently that she want to get back into playing golf. So I'm looking forward to it. My wife, she doesn't like sports, period. She likes what we do. She likes our business.
Right.
But sports, she's not a sports fan at all.
So she's happy to help with more of the business side of things, but not so much in the actual getting out there and playing. So, but that's good though. I mean, it's good that she obviously has other interests that she enjoys doing, but at the same time she can also participate in the business as well. So I think that's great, and it's it's fantastic. That your daughter has expressed some interest as well. I think it's great to be able to pass it on to the next generation. We're going to talk about that in just a minute here. But so what are some other goals? I mean, you've mentioned a few of them, but what are some other things that you see down the road that you've been thinking about? They may not necessarily happen right away, but things that you're thinking about or that have come to your attention either through your own initiatives or things that people have come to you and said, hey, have you thought about this? Are there other things that you're sort of moving in the wheelhouse, if you will, of mine?
Yes. I've been contacted recently by several people involved in the Disabled Golf Association.
Yes.
And I have a good friend that owns a golf company as well called Caddy Basket Golf. And he's been introducing me to people and getting more involved in that because they also would want to see their numbers. They think it's great. So I'm looking forward to being more active in the disabled golf world and allow those guys the same opportunity. They're they're great, and it's been fun for the ones I've worked with thus far, and I'm looking forward to really increasing our activity in that area.
Yeah, I agree. I've been involved through my programs with the Adaptive Golfers Association here in the United States, and it's a much bigger pool of individuals than people I think realize. In fact, and I'm only guesstimating here, and I'm not really including a lot of the veterans and things like that, but it's roughly in the range of 20 to 24 million in the United States alone that fall into that category that have some. Yeah, it's amazing, and that's obviously a variety of different disabilities or disadvantages, as some have labeled it. But so it's a much bigger pool than what people realize. And the unfortunate thing, Ian, is, and this is through some of my discussions, and I'm happy to introduce you to some people that are in that area that might be able to help further that quest. One of the things that they're really trying to do is, again, I don't think the golf industry as a whole really realized how big that market is, and they're not really being serviced. And the one particular individual I'm thinking of has actually been on the Golf Channel. She's been, in fact, was invited, I think it was this past season, was invited to the Masters as a special guest to talk about that very thing. So she's garnered a lot of attention in that area, and they're starting to see really, that there's a big market there of people that would love to participate but just don't feel that's an inclusive for them because of their disadvantage and things like that. So this is something that the golf industry. So I'll be more than happy to make that introduction and help you with that as well. So let's talk about, in other ways, let's talk about growing the game. Now, you obviously have something, and you found a niche in the market that is obviously done very well for your business. But let's talk about the game in general. Obviously, traditionally, the game was very, for lack of better words, was very traditional, country club and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of businesses that have come out now, like organizations like Top Golf, that have sort of taken a different approach, have made it more of an entertainment avenue in that. What are some of the things that you would like to see happen to make changes to bring more people into the game, or at least introduce them to the game?
Even though Top Golf, Drive Shack, those type of places are around, I think still, especially in the inner city, in the urban community, they still have that preconceived notion that golf isn't for everyone, that it's an old white man sport. And we have tons of examples out there that shows that that's not the case. So I would like to see, and I would like to get more involved in showing all people who plays golf, who's active in golf. You mentioned earlier that a lot of retired athletes, they retire and they begin to play golf. There's a lot of active athletes that play golf that many people don't know about, and unless you follow golf, you don't see it. So really getting it out in the mainstream, as you mentioned, we met on social media. There's a lot of people on social media that need to see those images, that need to see those videos, that need to be part of that discussion to realize that golf is a sport for everyone, not just for one set of people. And I'm looking to get more active in that aspect as well. Because as I mentioned, I have people that I know personally that still believe that. And I still get bothered or teased with that. And I'm like, that is not the case. And I see it all the time, but they don't see it unless somebody puts it in front of them.
Well, and you're exactly right. And that's a perception, unfortunately, that still lingers. And I'll tell you my reasons why I feel that is I think the media in general, and I'm talking mainly the golf media here, and this is one of the reasons why I do the shows that I do, is when most people turn on the TV and see anything about golf, it's predominantly, if you're watching the Golf Channel, of course, you see some commercials, Callaway, Titleist, and so on and so forth. But predominantly, the imagery that they see is the professional golf tours. So right away, 90% of the people that don't follow golf that see that, They see, well, that's those are high-end athletes, Tiger Woods and whoever else out there, Rory McIlroy and all these other guys, and of course on the ladies' side. I'm never going to be there. I'm not good enough. I don't have that kind of money to get there. They don't see themselves, right? They don't see themselves out there playing golf because in their minds there's two factors. One, they see it as a rich man's sport, which it is costly compared to other sports, but they see predominantly at a high-level game. They don't see what goes on in their own communities, and I blame a lot of, unfortunately, golf courses, managers, and so forth for not actively getting out in their community other than corporate events. In other words, getting out in the school systems and getting out into, boys and girls camps and groups like that and exposing them. And I think that's one of the things that happens is that is the perception that is given when people see it in the media. We hear about all these great tour players and stuff, and that's fantastic. We got to have that too. But what about the thousands of teach professionals and entrepreneurs such as yourself that are out there? What about their stories? Why are we not hearing about them? And it's because that's not what sells in the big corporate world. So, this is why it's not done. What are your thoughts there, and what could the industry do as a whole, do you think, in your opinion, from your experience, maybe do differently?
So my opinion is first, it starts with me. Before I can talk about the industry or a particular course, it starts with me and putting those images out there because, I have quite a few followers that are not golfers. So making the effort to tell those stories, to put those images and videos out there to my audience first. So I need to take ownership of that and do a better job of that. Now, then encouraging others to do the same thing. Not just during a certain month, but, from now moving forward. I know a lot of golfers that want to be on a PGA Tour that are grinding every day. Some I know personally, and some I know just via social media, and we communicate that way, putting their stories out there. So you're right. The Golf Channel and other media outlets, they need to first understand that, and I could be the person to help them understand that, and two, begin to work at making or have a concerted effort to put those imagery out there and really show the life of somebody that look like those you want to now be part of the game. Show that grind, show that story. Where do they come from? So they can relate. Being a kid growing up in the Bronx, to me, it was all about being able to relate and also opportunities. I also had a strong mom who made sure that not only that we had opportunities, but that we took advantage of those opportunities. I kind of look at it like, those who know me, they know I'm a foodie. You've probably seen a lot of food posts on my Facebook account. And I'm glad my daughter is a foodie, but I see a lot of people who would not eat outside of what they consider the normal, the burger, the fries, the steak, the pizza, and they don't want to try like Thai food, for example, or Colombian food because it's different. I view golf that way, that once a young person actually tastes it, once they taste it, that's all they want. Now they're not going to go back to the burger and fries. Or some of the other sports that they play. They would love the game of golf and they realize that this is an opportunity. This is something that I can do. Not only am I welcome to do it, but hey, I'm pretty good at it, or I could become pretty good at it as well. And as you mentioned, all the life lessons that you can get from the golf course, and I feel that experience leads to broader or greater opportunities in life because now they know that things are not kept away, so to speak, from them.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it all starts with all of us individually. I mean, we have to do our part and we have to acknowledge certain things. And you're exactly right. And the reason why I make this point, Ian, is simply that, if we want to grow the game, we can't just if there's 5 roads in front of us, we can't go down the same road every time. We have to try different areas and different roads, if you will, because if you're doing the same thing all the time or promoting the same thing all the time, you're never going to see a change. And what has to happen, I think, again, it falls into education. Getting involved at the school level and boys and girls clubs and things like that. And that might be something, and you may have already doing it, may already consider it, but that's something that you can create a fun event that can be very, very inexpensive for the schools to get involved. And you might even do it initially as a volunteer and just bring in that technology and inviting some of the local schools, do it almost like not necessarily an after-school project, but something to that effect, and just exposing it, because it's been proven, if you look at most other major sports, we're all exposed to, baseball, soccer, football, basketball, whatever, all of these different sports at a very early age in our school system. Golf is one of the only sports that you don't see until much later on. And the truth of the matter is that if they're not exposed at an early age, the likelihood of them getting involved in that sport in any capacity reduces significantly. And that's why you don't see a lot of younger people, unless they've, it's in their family, their family plays golf and has encouraged them to play. If they've never been introduced to golf, they don't know anything about it other than what they see on television. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's the illusion of, well, hey, these tour players or these high-level players, I'm never going to get there, so obviously that's not for me. But I can go out and I can shoot hoops in, my local, gymnasium or YMCA or whatever the case may be. I can do that. It's very inexpensive, doesn't cost me anything, and I can have some fun. But going out in the golf course, I can't play that because I don't know how to play, and it's expensive, and there's an illusion that's given, unfortunately, through bad, in my opinion, bad economics and bad imagery from what people are seeing. And I think that's one of the things that needs to change.
Yeah, I totally agree. Growing up in the Bronx, or even when I lived in St. Petersburg, Florida, the community center was very close. So basketball courts were close, football fields were close, baseball fields were close. I was having a conversation with the director of golf operations at Chichi Rodriguez Golf Club the other day. Where are the golf courses? The golf courses aren't close. So the difficulty that we're having is the transportation piece. That's what we're working, to do and looking to do a better job at in 2019, working with these nonprofits, is now being able to raise money to get kids who are interested to and from the golf course. A lot of golf courses don't have bus routes near. So that's even for those who would like to play golf, they can't get there. So that's going to be a focus of ours and some of the people that we know in the industry there in 2019 and beyond. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and one of the other things, just another quick point about that. I had a friend of mine that's down in the Naples area, which of course has a ton of golf courses there, but most of them, other than a handful, are private clubs. And they have have had a very good established first tee program in that area. The problem that they've run into is they don't have what I would classify as a home course. They have had to move kind of around from a couple of courses because a lot of the member courses don't want the program there. And they've got a very substantial, membership in this first tee program, but they've had difficulty over the years. Now, it may be different today. This was sort of reporting from a couple of years ago. But this is another problem, is accessibility. I have another friend of mine down in the Miami area that there was some huge controversy that had come up that one of the only last public golf courses in Miami that everybody could sort of come to and play on was being considered to be sold to, and I'm not going to name the name. I'm not going to give them the credit, but the celebrity that wanted to convert it into a soccer, sports training center for professional soccer. And, so that, again, takes away And I understand the land's valuable, but you have to have somewhere to go. So this is something I think the other thing that the industry has to do. You and I could probably talk, for hours about all of the wonderful, great courses out there. But the truth of the matter is that the average person, handicaps over 50% of all golfers here and I'm just using the United States as an example. I'm sure if you did it worldwide, it might be different. Over 50% cannot break 100. So if you take those stats into consideration, and then you're talking almost another third that are lucky if they can even break 80 or 90. So, you have a very low percentage that are shooting the scores that you're shooting as an example. So one of the problems with that is these courses, as great as they are too difficult for the average player. So what I would look at is I would like to see more par 3 or executive style courses being built up. First off, they take a lot less land. They're a lot easier to maintain. And there's something that people can use as a stepping stone. And as their game develops, then they can, maybe graduate, if you will, quote unquote, to some of the better courses. But at least it gives them an accessibility and something that can be very inexpensive. And I think that would also help grow the game. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. That's how I got involved in the game, at an executive course, a par 3 course that was close to the house. Then eventually, after really learning the game and practicing the game, you outgrow it, and you do graduate to bigger courses. Maybe not a course that's 7,000 yards, but some of the smaller ones that are around 5,500, 6,000 yards, and then even graduate from there. So yeah, I agree, and that's something. You're right. Don't know how to get the ball rolling on that, but that's something else that those who make those decisions need to be aware. I hear all the time about the lack of interest in golf without considering these other factors, right? Just like you said, it takes up less land, so you can put those in places where people can actually get to. So yeah, that's perfect.
Well, and I also think, Ian, one of the problems that I've seen, and again, going back to the stats, the biggest percentage of new golfers coming into the game are young females from about 13 up to early 30s in that range group, and actually probably a little bit younger than that. That's the biggest influx of young girls coming in, and that's obviously to the, we need to say thank you to groups like the LPGA and that have done a phenomenal job of marketing and junior golf programs and girls golf and all of these different things. Having said that, though, again, I think one of the other problems is the perception that a lot of folks have of golf is, again, that it's, you're getting into it to play competitive golf, and it's not just something to get in and have fun with. And I know that there's a lot of pros out there, trying to change that image a little bit and saying, hey, just come on, let's have fun. And they're inviting all different groups out to do that. But again, we need to really specifically target the various different markets out there and say, look, this is something not only that you can come out and play recreationally, if you want to aspire to be a little bit better and play more competitive, maybe play collegiately or even for your high school team, or whatever, or eventually make it on the tour, that's great too. And make it so that people understand there's a little something for everybody and make it a little bit more affordable and more accessible. And I think that's really the direction that the industry needs to go into. And I know they've talked about it, but, and I'll be honest, being in the industry, I hear a lot of lip service, but I don't see a lot of action. So,
Yeah, exactly. I've done last summer. We've done a few first tee events. Having the kids, from the ages of 5 through 14, take advantage of the technology, and it was a great experience for them, but even greater experience for my wife and I, just to see. Hundreds of kids going through the excitement of seeing their cell phone video, of seeing their ball flight or their club path, and understanding what these numbers are. And as you mentioned, there's a great share of them were young ladies. Were young ladies enjoying the game. So kudos to those groups, and I continue to follow them, and they do a great job of targeting young women to start playing that game of golf. And we'll do more of that this year as well. But I've seen that shift in the interest of golf in our youth.
Well, again, just to sort of give you a general idea, I think it's over a third now, roughly I think it's almost 35% of all new golfers are in that young female category. And obviously there's multiple reasons. I mean, obviously the LPGA and even organizations, again, as I mentioned earlier, Topgolf and that are certainly introducing people to the game. But again, I think that we need to close that perception that it's not just, at the junior level about feeding them into these tours. Even collegiate golf. I mean, there's some great opportunities there as well, and that's something for them to consider. But it shouldn't be their only option if they want to be exposed to the game. There should be other options. And the other thing too,
exactly.
Ian, as I'm sure you know, even though your wife doesn't participate, there's a lot of other women or other men out there that may want to play golf and see business opportunities with it. Lots of business is done out in the golf course. There's a great opportunity, and a lot of people, again, there's a variation of things that you can do. It doesn't always have to be, a 4 to 6 hour round. There can be other variations. Some of the programs that you're offering through Diggs, as an example, could be another option, for corporate types to get involved in golf. And again, you don't have to be a great golfer. It's all about having fun and creating a positive business atmosphere for your employees. So. Again, kudos to you for doing that. So as we get close to wrapping things up here, Ian, let's talk about, first off, where people can go to get more information and any final thoughts that you might want to share with us.
Okay, all right. So people can go to our website, DialedInGolfSolutions.com, Facebook, Dialed In Golf, Instagram, Dialed In Golf, Twitter, Dialed Golf. But the majority of our information you'll find on our website. My email is ipeterson@DialedInGolfSolutions. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email or contact us through the website. But I certainly look forward to hearing from all of you.
Well, perfect. And as I said, I always try to look for interesting guests that have. I interview obviously a lot of golf instructors on the show and those that own academies and things like that. And we always have some interesting discussions, but I like to find some new and different things out there to share with people to make them aware of, because again, in order to grow the game, you have to show the diversity that golf offers, that it's not just about playing at an elite level. It's also about just going out and having a good time, or wrapping it around some sort of a corporate event or even, a school program or something like that. So there's a lot of different opportunities, and that's something that obviously you've recognized and obviously you're doing well. So, Ian, I want to thank you very much for coming on Golf Talk Live tonight, and I wish you much continued success, and I hope that you will continue to reach out to me as well in any way that I can help, not only spread the word, but any way that I can help your business continue to flourish. I'll be more than happy to do that.
Thank you, Ted. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Well, listen, you have a great week. Hopefully the weather will be nice. And as I joked about earlier, and you had mentioned, if you're wanting to play a lot of golf, folks, do not get into the golf industry, because that will diminish. I knew that when I first started giving lessons. I thought, well, this is going to be great. I'll be out in the golf course and be able to play a lot. And you do initially as you're building it, but once you build your business to a point, you're so busy and booked up with lessons and events and things like that there's no time for you to play. And for those of you that want to think you're going to play a lot of golf, don't become a golf professional or get in the golf industry, because that's going to dial down. And you were smart too, Ian, because the other thing I thought about earlier when you mentioned, when I was reading your bio, and you're originally from up in the New York area, you've already thought about down the road when you get to retirement. You've already moved to Florida, and you're already here to be able to play some great golf. So you don't have to do that. You've already got that move in place. You don't have to worry about shoveling snow anymore or doing any of that stuff. So
perfect. I'll
Perfect.
tell you what, Ted, it's already too hot here in the state of Florida. Too hot, too early. So it's just great to be out on the course, but it's a little humid out there. And we have a big event, Golf Fest, coming up here Saturday and Sunday at Tampa Bay Downs. So all the big OEMs will be out there: Callaway, Wilson, TaylorMade, Srixon, all those guys. And we look forward to be on that tee box with them and come stop by, get your numbers, sharing that experience.
Well, sounds good. So again, folks, if you want to find out more information about Ian and Dialed In Golf Solutions, go to dialedingolfsolutions.com. All the information, all the social media links, and all the contact information is there. So by all means, please reach out. It's a great, interesting business, and I think you'll enjoy adding that to your golf experience as well. So again, Ian, thank you very much for spending time with me tonight on Golf Talk Live. I appreciate it, and I hope you'll come back and give me an update in the future.
Will do. Thank you, Ted.
You're very welcome. Have a great evening.
Hey, you too. Bye.
All right, that was my very special guest tonight, Ian Peterson, the founder and CEO of Dialed In Golf Solutions. Again, just go to dialedingolfsolutions.com and all of the social media information you'll find there. And it's very, very interesting business model, and I wish him sincerely all the continued success, and I hope his business continues to grow because I think it's a great business, and I wish him and his wife, Ari, all the best in their future endeavors. So that wraps it up for this show. We've got one more show next week where I will have a featured guest in, and then the week following, which of course will be March the 7th, as I mentioned, I'll be going to the full broadcast, 2-hour broadcast, and I will have the first Coach's Corner panel of 2019 on March 7th, followed by my interview guest, of course, afterwards. So I'm excited to get back into the Coach's Corner segments. I always enjoy those in addition to the interviews, so I hope you'll continue to join me. And also looking forward to having the folks at golfswing.com come back this season as the sponsor of the Coach's Corner panel. So I'm very excited about that. And you can visit my social media pages as well to see more about not only the shows, but also about golfswing.com. I will be posting, again, some great videos from their online video academy at golfswing.com. So on that note, good night, everybody. God bless, and thank you for tuning in to Golf Talk Live. Thanks for listening to this evening's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. Remember to tune in each week at blogtalkradio.com/Golf Talk Live. If you can't join us live, check out the on-demand section for previously aired broadcasts, or listen on any of the following social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. To get updates on future shows and upcoming guests, be sure to visit the show's Facebook page, Golf Talk Live Blog. You can also follow me on Twitter at Ted and Buck CEO. Remember to join me live each week for another great broadcast of Golf Talk Live. See you next time. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.